Okay then, sorry about the delay, we're going to make a start now. My name's Basil, or you can call me Baz. I've been working in Dawa for 5 years and we've never started on time, so apologies for that. But basically I'm the chairman of a new organisation in Middlesbrough called Straight Path Islam. You can check our website out, www.straightpathislam.webs.com. We're a group of young brothers and sisters who want to dispel all misconceptions about Islam and bring the true ideas of Islam towards our non-Muslim friends in the area. And also we're going to create like healthy dialogue between Muslims and non-Muslims so you can understand each other properly. If we don't get active and if we don't start speaking up for ourselves, the only source of information people can get about us is from the news and other places. So basically it's up to us to create an environment where we can have healthy dialogue with each other and discuss all topics, especially the sensitive topics. Because if we avoid them, then like I said, the only other place that people can go to learn about Islam is from the media or maybe people that don't like Islam or whatever. Today's topic is, does God exist? To a lot of people this might sound like a simple thing, like just yes or no, but more and more people, especially from the young people, are beginning to think about, does God exist, does God not exist? A lot of people are agnostic, meaning they say there might be a God, there might not be a God, but even if there is anyway, he's got nothing to do with us, we're not bothered. Some people are spiritual but don't follow organised religion. Other people are certain that there's a God, and other people just disbelieve in him altogether. So this is a very important question, and we aim to tackle it today. The format of the debate is that we're going to have Brother Hamza and Georges, who sat closest to me. He's going to be arguing for the existence of God. And we have over there Mr. Philip Nathan, who is from the Northeast Humanist Society. He's going to be arguing that there is no existence of God. Since Brother Hamza is making the affirmative argument, he will be going first. He will have 25 minutes to give his argument, after which Mr. Philip Nathan will have the same amount of time, another 25 minutes, to give his side of the argument. After that, they'll have 8 minutes each for a rebuttal to argue against the other person's argument, in other words. And we're making sure everyone sticks to the time to the second, and we'll make this 100% fair. And just to let you know about the two speakers, neither of these two guys, I'm sure they might not want to say this, but neither of these two guys are getting any personal benefit out of this whatsoever. Both agreed to do it for free, so they're both here for one reason and one reason only. Both believe that what they have is the truth, and they've come here to share that with you, people of the audience. So they've come here in good spirits, so I hope that the people in the audience can also help to make this debate a constructive debate, so that we can hear each other's arguments with respect. It's only due to the nature of the debate that people might say certain things which might sound offensive to other people, right? But, as people, we have to be able to accept opinions, even if they're against our opinions, okay? So I hope that we can continue with respect. After the debating bit is over, we'll have a 10-minute break where I'll make more announcements, and we'll have after that a chance for question and answers. I'll go through the details for question and answers later on. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Hamza Andreas Georges to come to the stand and to deliver his 25-minute speech. Thank you. And please stay silent throughout the full debate. You can have question and answers at the end. If you want to, do an applause or whatever, or do a takbir or whatever, do it after they've stopped talking, because we're recording it.
Are the speakers working? Because the mic doesn't seem to work.
I've got like a natural microphone in my voice.
Okay, start. Take your time.
إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. I greet you all with the Islamic greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the brothers and the sisters and the friends who have organized today's discussion. Most importantly, I'd like to thank Philip Nathan for being a positive participant in today's discussion. I think today's discussion is very important because the concept of God forms the foundation for religious belief. And therefore it forms the foundation for action, whether we perceive it to be bad or whether we perceive it to be good. But I think there's a theological, emotional reason why I'm here today as well. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace and blessings be upon him, said, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه, which is a hadith, a narration attribute to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he said, you are not a true believer unless you love for others or you love for yourself. Akhihi means brother, but if you go to the other riwayah, the other narrations in Imam Ahmed, for example, it means the whole of humanity. Philip Nathan and other people in the audience who are of agnostic, skeptical or atheist perspective, they need to be given some of this thing that we love. And the thing that we love the most is the truth, is the idea that God does really exist. And it's very important because there's many so-called intellectuals out there in British society and across the world claiming that there is no God. For example, Richard Dawkins, he said, if people think God is interesting, the onus is on them to show that there is anything there to talk about. Otherwise, they should just shut up about it. This is the kind of mentality that we're having to face in the 21st century in Britain. Similarly, and nicely put, the Christian professor Alistair McGrath at the University of Oxford, he demystifies why some people are very aggressive atheists. And he says, if atheism saw itself simply as one irreligious option among many, there would not have been a problem. Atheism, however, has a disturbing tendency to see itself as the only faith and demands that everyone conforms to its beliefs. I believe this debate today is not alien to the Islamic tradition. The Quran, which is the book of the Muslims, that we believe is divine, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, engages with the mind. Allah says in the Quran, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ, do they not reflect within themselves? وَكَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And thus, we have explained our signs, our proofs, our evidences in detail for those who يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. يَتَفَكَّرُونَ in the classical Arabic language doesn't mean just thinking about something. It's very deep. It means the thing that you're reflecting upon, you must inquire about its implication. What does it really mean? Similarly, the Quran says, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Have you not seen the camel and how we created it? Always making us ponder and engaging our minds. The Quran is not a book of blind faith, rather it's a book of the thinking man, the thinking human being. Similarly, that's why I'm going to bring 3 arguments today, very briefly, and we can expand them in the question and answers, on why I believe there's greater reasons to believe that God does really exist. The first argument is God makes sense of the origin of the universe. The second argument is God makes sense of the fine-tuning of the universe to permit life. Third argument is God makes sense of objective moral values in the world. What we believe to be good and right is actually objective and not subjective. Let me start with the first argument. God makes sense of the origin of the universe. We have all asked, where have we come from? Why does something exist rather than nothing? Did the universe have a beginning? Did it just appear? Typically, atheists generally have said the opposite. They say the universe is eternal and uncaused. The famous philosopher Bertrand Russell, he said, the universe is just there and that's all. But I would argue this is irrational. This is not based upon thinking mind or any type of logic or rationality. Because if the universe was infinite forever, that would mean our past, our history is also infinite and forever. But can we have an infinite set of past events? No, we can't, because it leads to contradictions. For example, even mathematicians recognize this. Let me give you an example. You have these two lines here. You can see point A and B, D and C, and you can see they're finite lines. But if we stretch the two black lines onto infinity forever, then I ask you, what is the distance between these 2 points? Now one may argue, well, the distance is infinity because it's between two infinites. The two lines have been stretched to infinity now. But you can also argue that the distance between those 2 points is finite because it's between 2 points. So there's a contradiction. It leads to absurdities. As the famous philosophers say, the concept of the infinity has no export into the real world. Aptly put, the famous German mathematician David Hilbert, he said, the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature, nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea. But historical events or past events are real things, not just ideas. So we can't have an infinite set of past events. We wouldn't have today. Therefore, we need a cause. Let me explain this with a nice example. Say you wanted to borrow the book called the Quran in Tizayed University Library, and you had 4 people in front of you. You would have to wait 4 people long. If you had 400 people in front of you, you have to wait 400 people long. Now what if you had an infinite amount of people in front of you, or forever amount of people in front of you? You would never get the Quran. Similarly, we can't have an infinite set of past events. The philosopher Alexander Vilenkin, he puts this really nicely, and he takes his gloves off. He doesn't hold any punches. He says, it is said that an argument is what convinces the reasonable man, and a proof is what convinces even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Now I would argue this is supported by scientific evidence, astrophysical evidence. It's not just a philosophical discussion. We've all heard of the Big Bang, where it was claimed that physical time and space were created and matter and energy were also created. The 4 prominent scientists, J. Richard, James Gunn, David Schramm, and Beatrice Tinley describe the event of the Big Bang as follows. And they say, the universe began from a state of infinite density, this is the key word, infinite density about 1 Hubble time ago. Space and time were created in that event, and so was all matter in the universe. But what does infinite density actually mean in scientific discourse? It actually means nothing. So, we have to believe that the universe came out of nothing. Similarly, Cambridge astronomer Fred Hoyle, he states, the universe at a point in the past was shrunk down to nothing at all. So the Big Bang model requires us to believe that something was created out of nothing. For example, Anthony Kenny, professor at Oxford University, he says, a proponent of the Big Bang theory, at least if he's an atheist, must believe that the universe came out of nothing and by nothing. But brothers, sisters and friends, out of nothing, nothing comes. Even atheists recognize this. The famous philosopher David Hume, he said, I never asserted to absurd proposition as that anything might arise without a cause. Similarly, Pages Walt, in his publication About Time, says, if there is anything we find inconceivable, it is that something could arise from nothing. And the famous eminent physicist, Sir Arthur Eddington, quite interesting statement here. He says, the beginning of the universe seems to present insuperable difficulties unless we agree to look at it as frankly supernatural. So there is a cause for the universe based on philosophical, scientific, logical and rational evidence. But what is the nature of this cause? Because some atheists still claim, fine, there is a cause for the universe, but it's mechanical. There's no being. It's just mechanical. But I would argue that this cause must be personal. Because if it was mechanical, then the cause could not exist without the effect. And if we're saying this cause caused time in the whole universe, the cause must be eternal. But if it was mechanical, then the universe must also be eternal. The cause can't exist without effect. But in this case, we know the effect, the universe, is finite, had a beginning. So it means an eternal entity chose the universe to come into existence. And choice indicates personality. So it must be a personal being. Also, this being is not subject to time, because we know it created time. For example, Stephen Hawking, he says, almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang. Also, this cause must be uncaused. Because if we say then what caused the cause, then we can argue what caused the cause that caused the cause, what caused the cause that caused the cause that caused the cause, and we're going again for infinity. But we've already discussed that infinity regress, going back to infinity, just simply doesn't exist. So there must have been a point where there was a sole cause. So, the summary of this first argument is as follows. It's a very basic summary for everyone to understand. 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist as we've just substantiated. 3. Therefore the universe has a cause. The second argument is that God makes sense. The existence of God makes sense of the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. Because if we look at the Big Bang, and the initial conditions for the Big Bang were exquisitely arranged to permit a life-permitting universe. For example, Professor of Theoretical Physics Paul Davies, he states, the explosive vigor of the universe is thus matched with almost unbelievable accuracy to its gravitating power. The Big Bang was not evidently any old bang, but an explosion of exquisitely arranged magnitude. Now, when the laws of nature are expressed mathematically, various constants are discovered, and these constants are not dependent on the laws of nature. For example, let me give you 2 examples. The expansion rate of the universe. Now, the expansion rate of the universe, if it differed by more than 10 to the power of minus 18, which is 1/quillionth of a second, there would have been no universe at all. For example, even Stephen Hawking, in his publication, A Brief History of Time, he acknowledges the following. He says, if the rate of expansion was 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller by even 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present size. The second example is about the Big Bang's low entropy condition. Roger Penrose of the Oxford University has calculated the odds, the chance, of the Big Bang's low entropy condition existing just by chance alone. And he said it's 10 to the power of 10, which is 10 and add 123 zeros. And Penrose comments, he says, I cannot even recall seeing anything else in physics whose accuracy is known to approach even remotely a figure like 1 in the 10 to the power of 10. So there are 3 possible explanations for this fine-tuning of the universe to permit intelligent life. Only 3 possible explanations. 1, physical necessity. 2, just by chance. Or 3, supernatural design. Well, it can't be physical necessity because we just discussed that these constants, these numbers, are not dependent on physical law. So it's not physical necessity. 2, it can't be chance because the numbers are so high that if you were able to say, yes, it was chance, that is equivalent of me saying that there's a possibility that my grandmother is a pink elephant that was born on Pluto that flew here on a giant feather. Because if you start believing in these astronomical figures, then there's no positive discussion. Then we could say, what if this and what if that? What if we're not really here? What if the world is actually flat, but someone made you believe it's round? These ifs, it doesn't create any positive discussion and we're going nowhere. So it can't be chance, because in day-to-day life, when the scientist or the atheist deals with his life, he doesn't entertain such chance. But when it comes to God, chance is possible. So the third argument is the most suffice argument for this, which is it must have been a supernatural designer. So the summary of this second argument. 1, The fine-tuning of the universe is due to physical necessity, chance, or design. 2. It can't be due to physical necessity, and it can't be due to chance. Therefore, 3. It is due to supernatural design. My final argument is that God makes sense of objective moral values in the world. The argument is as follows. If God does not exist, then objective moral values do not exist. But we believe that values are objective. We know that rape is objectively wrong. We know that murder is objectively wrong. We know the Holocaust was objectively wrong. But if you don't believe in a God, conceptually, you cannot say it was objective, only subjective. This doesn't mean atheists or humanists, they don't have good morals and they can't live a good life. Of course they can. But from an ideas point of view, you can never claim that rape is bad, objectively. And you can never claim that the Holocaust was objectively wrong. And I'll give you the following examples. Before I do that, let's hit something from the late Professor J.L. Mackie of Oxford University, one of the most influential atheists. He says, actually he admitted, if there are objective values, they make the existence of God more probable than would have been without them. Thus, we have a defensible argument from morality to the existence of God. But I have to repeat, it doesn't mean atheists and humanists do not have moral behavior. But it means if you don't believe in a God, you can't claim that these morals are objective. You can't say rape is actually good or bad, objectively. You can say it's relatively good or bad. And this is a problem because all inside us, we believe these things are objectively wrong. So without God, there's only two ways to try and prove in objective morals. One is biology or evolution, and two is the social pressure, the influential ideas in society. But let's take the first one. Can we take evolution as a basis to prove that there is objective morals? No, we can't. Because what is evolution? Evolution says that human beings are just accidental byproducts of a lengthy evolutionary process. And our morals have evolved just like our ears or teeth. And similarly, you may argue, well, human beings are different from animals. No, not from a biological perspective, because evolution says that we're just like animals. And animals have no moral sphere. There's no moral paradigm when it comes to animals. Because when we see a cat plays with the mouse and scratches its eyes out and rips its brains out and eats it alive, we don't say the cat is behaving immorally. We just say it's acting according to his instincts. Similarly, evolution says exactly the same thing. For example, nicely put, the professor of science, Michael Rules, he explains, morality is a biological adaptation no less than our hands, feet and teeth. Considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something, ethics, in other words morality, is illusionary. It's an illusion. I appreciate that when somebody says, love thy neighbor as thyself, they think they're referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction, and any deeper meaning is an illusion. This is what they believe in if you believe that morality comes from evolution. It has no objective basis. Secondly, can we claim social pressure? Can we claim, well, there's a consensus, an ijma' in Arabic, a consensus in society that says what's morally right or wrong. But there's huge problems in this. Because some of the actions that we do today in the 21st century will be despicable 40 or 30 years ago. Because the influential ideas in the society has shaped society in a different way. So, society is relative. Morals are relative from a social pressure point of view. They can never claim that objectively wrong or objectively right these actions. Similarly, if we believe that the basis of morality is just social pressure, then that means you would have to agree that the Holocaust was good if you believe in this approach. Because it was just social pressure. Because wasn't it social pressure in the 1930s and 40s that all the Germans came together to agree as a consensus that it was morally right to kill 6 million Jews? So we could never say that the basis of morality is just social pressure. So that's why I argue, if you don't believe in a God, you can never claim in objective morality. Because you have these two options, biology, evolution, or social pressure. And we just discussed, they cannot be a firm, rational foundation for objective morals. So Philip Nathan today can never claim that killing is actually objectively wrong, or objectively good. Because where is the basis? Where is the conceptual anchor that transcends human subjectivity? Only God can do that. So we could summarize the argument as follows. 1. If God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. 2. We know objective moral values do exist. 3. Therefore, God exists. So I think in order for us to have a very positive discussion today, I think what Philip Nathan must do, in my opinion, I'm not telling him how to debate, is go away from emotions. I've had many debates with humanists and he always gets into a religious, emotional argument. I want it to be very nice and clinical so we get to understand the ideas behind if God exists or not the emotional ideas. So I think he has to address some of the arguments I've posed today. And let me just summarize all the arguments. The first argument of the beginning of the universe was, 1. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. 2. The universe began to exist. 3. Therefore the universe has a cause. The second argument was about fine-tuning, and it went as follows. 1. The fine-tuning of the universe is due to physical necessity, chance or design. 2. It is not due to physical necessity, chance or design. 3. Therefore it's due to supernatural design. And the last argument, the third argument about morality, went as follows. 1. If God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist either. 2. But we believe that rape and killing is objectively morally wrong. We believe in objective moral values. 3. Therefore God does exist. These are the very basic premises that I've used, and I think Philip Nathan needs to address them as best as he can. Anything that I've said that's wrong or offensive has come from my ego. Anything that I've said that's good and correct has come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Unquestionably, indeed, all praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khair for listening.
انجمن آنتی شبهات @آنتی شبهات به کانال تلگرام و صفحه اینستاگرام ما بپیوندید.